Going up.
Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up.
Going up.
But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button.
Going down.
We've lowered prices. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. And you get a free 5G phone when you bring your number. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
At Ritual, we're celebrating all moms this Mother's Day, current and aspiring. So whether you're looking for fertility support, natal choline, or our best-selling clinically backed prenatal, we've got you covered. Find your Ritual. Go to ritual.com/podcast and for a limited time, get 40% off your first month. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Based on net sales from industry data, including Nielsen IQ, Stackline, and Numerator as of Q4 2024 and top 5 products.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Josh All alone, your host today. Happy Sunday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I am recording this early on Friday. We got a big weekend here at the household, things going on all weekend. So I wanted to get this recorded and ready for you guys to have on Sunday afternoon. So I hope things are going well. And today, what I really want to dive into is the conversation that everybody's having right now. And it's all around the Browns' two new rookie quarterbacks. Of course, we've got Shedeur Sanders, who's the talk of the town, talk of the league, really. I mean, the dude is now the number one selling jersey from the entire rookie class, a 5th-round pick. Never happened before, anything like this that we've ever seen. So he is a superstar celebrity, but it is yet to be seen if he will be a superstar NFL player. Time will tell. And we're going to be talking about Dillon Gabriel, who the Browns actually took ahead of Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft in the 3rd round. So I want to compare these two. I want to talk through each of them, watch some tape on each of them, break down what I saw, go through some PFF metrics and some deeper things to really analyze each of these two rookie quarterbacks and what exactly the Browns were thinking when they drafted each of these guys. So as we go along, make sure you guys drop everything, all your thoughts into the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel. So before I dive into my breakdown, my comparison between these two players, I just want to remind you guys, please, if you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss anything new that we put out, any of our live shows. We've got some big events coming up. We got the bowling event with the Tuscarawas County Browns backers in June, and we'll be making more announcements about that as things get closer. We've got the, hopefully, National High School Hall of Fame induction ceremony, some big player interviews coming up over the summer, and of course, all the camp and training camp news and preseason and all that stuff. So stay tuned. And real quick, if you guys are listening on audio, please tap the 5 stars, give us a quick written review. That stuff really helps out the show. Okay, so before I dive into either of these guys, I just want to preface everything by saying I am very excited for both of these prospects. I'm very excited to see what Dillon Gabriel can do, and I'm very excited to see what Shedeur Sanders can do. I like both of these prospects. Both of these prospects have a lot of pros. Both of these prospects also come with some cons. We're going to talk about strengths, weaknesses for both of these guys. I'm going to try to be as fair as I can and not try to go too over the moon about either guy, and also not get too, down in the dumps about either one either. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I did a little research on this and I found it interesting. So I'll walk you through it and then I'll explain why it's important. But this is about Dillon Gabriel. So last year in 2024, Dillon Gabriel finished 3rd place in the Heisman Trophy voting. But in the players who were finalists for the Heisman Trophy, he was the top quarterback finisher in the Heisman Trophy voting. So obviously Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. He was 1st place. Ashton Jeanty was in 2nd place. We haven't seen two players like Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty in the same year in a long time. I mean, we haven't seen a player like Travis Hunter maybe ever. So to have both of those guys do what they did in the college football season in 2024 at the same time, I mean, it was really a toss-up. I mean, Travis Hunter, complete unicorn, what he did on both sides of the ball, but then Ashton Genty was just insane at the running back position. So naturally, I think in any class, those guys are always going to go, or at least be in contention to go, 1 and 2. Dillon Gabriel finished third, and he was the first quarterback finisher, like I mentioned, in the voting. So why am I bringing that up? Why is it noteworthy for me to highlight here at the top of this show? Well, I went back and I looked, and it's so interesting to see the history of the Heisman Trophy voting and how things go into the NFL after that. The last 8 quarterbacks to finish atop the position, so to be the first quarterback finisher in Heisman Trophy voting, the last 8 are all currently starters in the NFL. So in 2023, Jaden Daniels was the first quarterback. He won the award. 2022 was Caleb Williams. 2021 was Bryce Young. 2020 was Trevor Lawrence. Now, he didn't win the Heisman. He finished second behind Devontae Smith, but still the first quarterback finisher. 2019 was Joe Burrow. 2018 was Kyler Murray. 2017 was Baker Mayfield. 2016, Lamar Jackson. So the last 8 quarterbacks to finish as the top quarterback in the Heisman Trophy voting are all currently starters in the NFL. And if you go back even further than the last 8 years, you go to 2015. Deshaun Watson finished third place in the Heisman Trophy voting, but he was a high-level starter in his first 4 seasons, and I believe he finished behind Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, if I'm not mistaken, that year. So one of those years where you got 2, historically amazing running backs. 2014, Marcus Mariota. He started his entire rookie contract for the Tennessee Titans. 2013, Jameis Winston started 5 years for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the top quarterback finisher going all the way back to 2013, every single year since 2013 to now, has been a starter in the NFL, or is still a starter in the NFL. 2024 was Dillon Gabriel. So we will see if he continues this trend, or if this, 8, 9, 10, this 11-year trend is going to be broken. But we will see. Now, obviously, I understand the difference. 11 of these guys were first-round picks. All these guys were first-round picks. Gabriel was a late third. So there is some difference there. But it's still very wild company to be in as the top quarterback finisher in the Heisman voting. I mean, he finished even above Cam Ward, who went number 1 overall to the Titans this year. Dillon Gabriel was also one of the 3 finalists for the Davey O'Brien Award, which is the award for the best college quarterback in the nation. The finishers were Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel. So the Browns got 2 of the finalists for the best quarterback award in college football. Pretty impressive. Going back even another year now, Dillon Gabriel was also a finalist for the Davey O'Brien Award in 2023. So that's 2 years in a row that he finished as a finalist for the best quarterback in the nation, and this year was third in Heisman Trophy voting. Now, going over to Shedeur Sanders, like I just mentioned, Davey O'Brien Award finalist along with Gabriel and Ward. These guys are both very decorated college football quarterbacks. A lot of experience, a lot of production, and a lot of college starts and touchdowns and yards and low turnover rates and all those things. And we're going to talk about it all that the Browns brought in to their quarterback room for 2025. So let's break down what I saw on film from each of these guys. So I did a lot more Shedeur Sanders film study months ago, just diving into this quarterback class. Never got into Dillon Gabriel because there was never a connection, at least a public connection, between the Browns and Dillon Gabriel. They kept their interest in him, all the time they spent with him. They kept all that so tight-lipped and under wraps. It didn't even come out that they met with him on a top 30 visit or that they worked him out privately in Eugene and took him to dinner. That stuff didn't come out till after he was picked, which is just crazy. So they kept that stuff so in-house. It was ridiculous. But when I went back now since the draft, and I've been going through some Dillon Gabriel film and things like that, watching him, here's kind of what I've seen. He's got a quick release when he catches the snap the ball's coming out. He is definitely a rhythm quarterback. He's going to get to his drop on time. He's going to deliver the ball on time, and he's going to progress through his reads. I saw some various arm angles, some throws from him, which I think that's great. That's good to see. It's key for a smaller quarterback to be able to throw at those different arm angles around defensive rushers. And we'll talk about getting yourself into strategic windows and all those types of things here in a minute. But watching Dillon Gabriel's film, and I admit, like, I have not broken down every game of his or anything like that, but just some of the key games, I totally see why Kevin Stefanski would want Dillon Gabriel. He's a strong play action quarterback. He's a timing quarterback, and he's a precision quarterback. I've read the term cerebral used a lot to describe him in different scouting reports, and he does. He sees the field very well. He can read the defenses, and then he makes the right decisions most of the time when he's throwing the ball, as is shown by his extremely high completion percentage and his extremely low turnover rate. He executes his offense like you want a quarterback to execute. But here we go on some cons. He is smaller. He's batted balls at the line are going to occur more because of that. I saw more batted passes in the film than with some of these other guys, just because he is a smaller stature quarterback. He's 5'11", 205. And that's where his pocket presence and navigating throwing windows is going to be so critical for Dillon Gabriel. Guys like Drew Brees, Russell Wilson are two really good examples that I can think of shorter quarterbacks who had to, and they talked about this. They've talked about this a lot. They have to position themselves strategically in the pocket in order to see the field, to see those throwing windows. Drew Brees was 6 foot even, Russell Wilson 5'10", Gabriel's kind of right in the middle there, like a 5'11". So right around in that range. I mean, he's not the smallest quarterback to ever come in the NFL, guys. I see people calling him like a midget and stuff like that. He's 5'11". He's not 5'7". He's not 5'8". He is 5'11". I mean, Bryce Young is 5'10", and Kyler Murray is 5'10". So there are players starting in the NFL who are even shorter than he is. But in my notes here, I put, watching his tape, I honestly forget that he's 5'11". The kid just plays ball. And I remember being impressed with him both times that I watched him when he faced Ohio State in 2024. So moving over to Shedeur Sanders then. What I saw from him when I was going through film, and this is months ago, like when I was really breaking him and Cam Ward down and comparing those two, with Shedeur, his intermediate touch passes are beautiful. I don't really know how else to describe it. And I've said this on the show before, it's almost like he teleports the ball into his receiver's hands. He leads the receiver into an open window, and he can put that ball right over the top of the linebackers, right in front of the safeties, into the place where only his guy can get it. And those throws are so nice to see. He's definitely a quick processor. His throwing motion, though, it's a little bit longer, but he's very mechanical. So Shedeur, when I say he's mechanical, I mean like his throwing motion, when he gets into his drop, when he sets his feet, when he's going through his throwing rhythm, it's so repetitive. It's like a carbon copy every single time he drops back. And it's obvious that his muscle memory is so locked into place when he's throwing the football. Now, his deep ball does tend to die some on the tape that I've watched. And honestly, I've seen the same from Dillon Gabriel at times. But Justin has said this a lot on the show. There's a lot of instances where Travis Hunter really does bail out Shedeur on some of the deeper throws. Some of these deeper passes to Travis Hunter should have probably been incomplete at best. Some probably could have been picked off, and somehow Travis Hunter's on the other end of that throw coming down with the catch because he's just that good. But, Shedeur, he plays on time, on schedule, and the thing with him, though, and we're going to talk a lot about this here in a little bit, when the pressure comes at him, I see so much. He immediately drifts backward in the pocket. The drifting was a major concern. It was a major knock on him in the evaluation process by pretty much every person, every analyst, every scouting report that I read or listened to talked about, man, when the pressure's coming, instead of stepping up or stepping around it or into the pocket, into the open zones of the pocket, he's drifting back. He's fading back. He's creating even further distance between him and his receivers than what he should be doing. And that did lead to a ton of sacks. So, let's look some more at these guys. Let's talk about some metrics, and let's start with those sacks. So Shedeur Sanders did lead the entire nation, all of college football, with 41 sacks taken last season. Yeah, I get it. I can hear you guys right now. His offensive line was not good. And you're right. It absolutely was not great, and that attributed to the sack count. But many of those sacks were still on him due to that drifting and fading backward that I just talked about, and him just simply not throwing the ball away. There were so many plays where he could have just thrown the ball away, lived to play another down, but he continues to try to extend the play. And make no mistake, Shedeur Sanders is athletic, but he's not athletic enough to extend plays beyond, I don't know how to say, beyond what he's trying to do. There reaches a point in the play where it's like, just throw it away. You can't outrun these defensive guys. You're not going to make a slick move and get around anybody or cut anybody. You just throw the ball away. But instead, he takes a sack. Many of those sacks were on him, like I said. And according to PFF, Shedeur was under pressure on a league-leading 168 dropbacks. So that kind of goes to his offensive line. 168 dropbacks where he was under pressure. 17 of his 41 sacks were attributed, though, to him, with 44 total pressures falling under his responsibility. So 41.5% of the sacks taken were on him, not the offensive line. Now, by comparison, Dillon Gabriel was under pressure on just 96 of his dropbacks. So Shedeur had 168, Dillon Gabriel just 96. He took only 19 sacks on the season, 7 of which he was responsible for. So that was 36.8% for Dillon Gabriel. 19 sacks taken was the 4th lowest mark in this draft class. So now we've got 2 quarterbacks. You got Shedeur Sanders, who had the most sacks taken in college football, and Dillon Gabriel, who was at the bottom of sacks taken in college football. And why am I harping so much on the sack stuff? Maybe that sounded a little dirty to you guys, but that says more about you than me. Taking sacks is a big deal to discuss and dissect for the NFL. If you take a sack in the NFL, 9 times out of 10, it's a drive killer. Total drive killer. Defenses are just too good in the NFL. And we know as Browns fans that once you're behind the sticks, whether it's a holding call, a false start, a negative run, thanks a lot, Jerome Ford, or a sack, we're usually screwed on that drive. So taking sacks is a big deal in the NFL. Now, another metric to look at is the pressure to sack rate. So how often is the defensive pressure converting to a sack against you? Shedeur's pressure to sack ratio was 20.1%, the 5th highest in the class. Conversely, Dillon Gabriel's was 13.9%, 5th lowest in the class. So this is a big differentiator between these two. Shedeur Sanders trying to extend plays too much, holding the ball too long, taking sacks. Dillon Gabriel getting rid of the ball quicker, not holding on the ball very long, knowing where to go. He doesn't try to extend. And I think Dillon Gabriel's a much better runner of the ball. He's a better scrambler. When he sees an opening, he takes it. Shedeur definitely sticks in the pocket longer than he should, looking for the pass before he'll try to do something with his feet. And that is what leads to a lot of this. And again, here we go to holding on to the ball. Another metric that we talk about a lot is time to throw. So I feel like I have to say this every time we talk about TTT, which is the PFF breakdown or acronym for time to throw. It's not how much time the quarterback has to throw. It's not how much time your offensive line is providing you to throw. Time to throw tracks how long it takes on average for you to get rid of the ball from snap to throw. How long does the quarterback hold on to the ball? So time to throw is really about the quarterback, the processing, how quickly you're getting rid of the ball, not so much how much time you're being provided by your line. So by that sense, you understand you want a lower time to throw, not a higher. A lot of people out there mistakenly look at this metric and think, okay, so, like Deshaun Watson had over 3, seconds time to throw. Well, the line was giving him plenty of time. No, that's not what it means. It means he was holding the ball that long. It was taking him over 3 seconds from the snap to getting rid of it. You want a lower time to throw. Down in the 2 point, it's I'm trying to think how to explain this. Like 2.6 range is really good for these NFL players. You don't get much quicker than that. 2.6, 2.7, those are the guys that are getting rid of the ball really, really fast. So, like I made in my notes here, you want to be under 3. You really you don't want to be over 3. Like I said, Deshaun Watson, he was at 305 last season, well over the 3 seconds on average his entire career. And we knew that coming into getting him. Like, he takes a lot of sacks, and that's what we're trying to get away from. Shedeur's time to throw was exactly 3 seconds. It was the highest in this draft class. Dillon Gabriel's time to throw was 2.78, 8th lowest in the class. The lowest was, for reference here, the lowest was Kyle McCord with 2.4. So he was getting rid of the ball real fast. But Dillon Gabriel was at 2.78. Shedeur was at 3. Hey, Browns fans, we just want to remind you guys, go check out the Living for We podcast. Living for We, keep your head up, addresses the troubles of gun violence and offers solutions for those who want to better their community. You'll hear from Amir and Drew, 2 black men who picked up a gun as kids because they felt they had no other choice. Andre Taylor, a community leader stepping into schools to break the cycle. Walter Patton, founder of Ghetto Therapy, bringing mental health support straight into the neighborhood. These are real stories, real struggles, and real solutions. Living for We is an award-winning podcast from Idea Stream Public Media, part of the Connecting the Dots Between Race and Health initiative. This season, host Maureen Harris-Taylor and her new co-host Maisha Watkins, executive director of the Cleveland Peacemakers, bring you stories from the front lines, victims, survivors, and those fighting for change. New episodes drop every Tuesday, and they started last month on February 11th. Listen to Living for We wherever you get your podcast, or watch the video version on IdeaStream's YouTube channel. Learn more at ideastream.com/podcast/living-for-we.
Going up.
Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up.
Going up.
But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button.
Going down.
We've lowered prices. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. And you get a free 5G phone when you bring your number. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
Close your eyes and imagine what you'll look like 6 months from now. How's your hair look? The same? Now picture how your hair would look if you started using Hims. If you're picturing the same you as before, but with much thicker and fuller hair, you'd be correct. What can happen in 3 to 6 months? You could pick up a new hobby and get not that good at it yet. You could do about half of your New Year's resolution. You could learn a few songs on the piano or pick up bass guitar. Or you could start seeing thicker, fuller hair regrowth through Hims. Not bad for just 3 to 6 months. Men, if you're starting to notice your hair thinning when you look in the mirror, you're not alone. Life just gets busier and busier, and it can feel like there's not enough time in the day to do something about it. So, try Hims Hair Loss Solutions. You can avoid jumping through a bunch of frustrating hoops and get access to treatment without even leaving your home. Hims provides you with the convenient access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted options and clinically proven ingredients, like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. Choose from personalized chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatments to find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online, so there are no uncomfortable doctor visits. Answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to you for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, and they can help you get your confidence back too with visibly thicker and fuller hair. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/Hail Mary. That's HIMS.com/Hail Mary for your personalized hair loss treatment options. Hims.com/Hail Mary. Results may vary based on studies on topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription products require an online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
So let's move into this. Let's look at each guy's passing depth and the metrics at different levels of the field. Shedeur Sanders had 24% of his throws behind the line of scrimmage and 38% in the short 0 to 9 yard range. Now, I've heard a lot of people, this is one of the big knocks on Shedeur. Yeah, he had a high completion percentage, but he threw most of his passes behind the line of scrimmage. Okay. Is that true? Is that not true? Well, here we go. Here's the actual facts. 24%, so a quarter of his throws were behind the line of scrimmage. And I do have Dillon Gabriel's numbers on here. My notes are all a little jumbled, so I'll get to it. But 38% then was between 0 to 9 yards. So if you combine those two, anything under 10 yards, Shedeur had 62% of his throws less than 10 yards. And his time to throw on average was still 3 seconds. So that means even on those shorter throws, he was taking maybe longer than what he needed to, but definitely on the deeper throws, the intermediate and longer throws, holding onto the ball way too long. Well, let's look at those. So passes of 20 plus yards. His time to throw on 20 plus yards was 3.4. Now, obviously, I get it. I understand a lot of you probably saying that, well, no kidding, Josh, you're going to hold on to the ball longer on a longer developing route. That just makes sense. It takes longer for these routes to develop. You got to hold it a little longer, but 3.4 is still pretty long. Dillon Gabriel's deep passing time to throw was 3.3. So not like a crazy amount lower, but still lower. Shedeur Sanders' completion percentage on those deep throws was 45%. Dillon Gabriel's completion percentage on deep throws, 20 or more yards, was 56%. Now, here we go. I said Shedeur's, he threw 62% of his passes under 10 yards. Well, Dillon Gabriel threw 68% of his passes under 10 yards, so even more than what Shedeur did. And if you remember, this was a big concern and a kind of a big knock type thing against Bo Nix last year when he came out from Oregon. Over 60% of his passes were short or behind the line of scrimmage. And it seems like that's just kind of how the offense operates at Oregon. And I'm misremembering this, but I think people said the same kind of thing about Justin Herbert when he came out a few years back. But either way, both of these guys, Sanders and Gabriel, operate on a ton of short passing throws. Now, is that bad or is that good? I don't think it really matters. I think what it shows in the NFL terms, with the too high safety, you're going the deep looks, the deep shots down the field, they don't happen very often right now in the NFL. That's not the game so much as executing, getting the ball out fast to your playmakers around the line of scrimmage and letting them create yards after the catch, getting it out quickly on RPOs and making quick reads to slants and outs and things like that. And then hitting the intermediate area of the field in between between the safety and linebacker in those zones. That's what the NFL game is all about right now in terms of passing. So these numbers don't really scare me. They don't worry me. Both of these guys can go down the field if they need to. Their accuracy is fine. They don't have the biggest arms in the world, but then again, like I just said, we're not really looking for that. I mean, Anthony Richardson has a cannon arm. If you want to look at that real quick, I was thinking about that the other night. You got Anthony Richardson, who was the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft, was seen as this, like, obviously he's a first-round talent, first-round prospect. And what did he have that even made him a first-round prospect? He had big size, big arm, fast. That's it. I mean, he had no college production, no experience, no accolades, nothing to warrant him being a top pick, but it was those other things that made him the pick. And look at what we're seeing in the NFL. He can't read the defenses. He can't process. He's not accurate. He can't get the ball out on time. He can't get it to where it needs to be. These guys can. So just using Anthony Richardson as an example, would you trade the 6'4" frame and the cannon arm and the fast 40 time for 68 to 70% completion percentage in the intermediate range of the field? Yeah, I think I would 100 times out of 100 because that's what the NFL needs right now. And that's what these two quarterbacks that the Browns took will provide. Okay, so Shedeur Sanders, speaking of that intermediate area, he was slightly better than Gabriel in the intermediate area, though he did throw 3 more interceptions in that range than Gabriel did. Gabriel was much better in the 20-plus range, so downfield he was better, except Shedeur had 14 touchdowns at 20-plus, and Dillon Gabriel had 8. I wonder how many of those 14 went to Travis Hunter, because that dude was a baller down the field. Gabriel had no receiver like Travis Hunter. He did have, I don't even know if he had better weapons overall, to be honest with you. The Colorado receivers, I think, got less credit than what they deserved, to be honest with you guys, just the whole group in general. But, Dillon Gabriel had Tez Johnson, he had Terrence Ferguson, but nothing like Travis Hunter. What he did have was the offensive line, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But another interesting thing, though, 9 of Shedeur's 10 interceptions came in that intermediate and short area of the field. So the area of the field that we're talking about executing a lot at the NFL level, that's where, Shedeur threw 10 picks last year. 9 of his 10, 90% of his picks came in that range, where Dillon had 5 of his 6 interceptions in that range. So the percentages doesn't matter, I guess, but it's just the total overall picks. So 9 for Shedeur, 5 for Dillon. Now, when these guys are under pressure, when they're facing pass rush and things like that, Dillon Gabriel was 78% completion when he was kept clean, 54% under pressure. Shedeur was 80% when kept clean, 55% under pressure. So those numbers are all well within just like 8% of each other, basically the same. But under pressure, Shedeur had 12 touchdowns and 5 picks. Gabriel, under pressure, had 8 touchdowns, 4 fewer than Shedeur, but just 1 interception all season while under pressure. And here's another big difference for the under pressure metric. Dillon Gabriel's time to throw under pressure was 3.6. Shedeur's was 4.14. That is very big number. Shedeur Sanders he had more big time throws under pressure. He had 8. Dillon Gabriel had 4. And now here's a breakdown of each guy in passing different passing concepts. So Shedeur Sanders ran play action on 28% of his dropbacks. He had 77% completion percent on play action, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. Dillon Gabriel ran play action on 40% of his dropbacks. So Dillon Gabriel is a play action quarterback. 40% of his dropbacks, 73% completion percent, 8 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Both players threw screen passes on 20% of their dropbacks. Both had 90% completion on screen passes, so they're about the same in that statistical category. Time to throw, once again, major difference here. Dillon Gabriel had a 2.65 on play action plays and 2.86 on non-play action plays. Sanders had 2.55 on play action plays, so he was actually less than Gabriel, but a very long developing 3.17 average on non-play action plays compared to 2.86 for Gabriel. So Sanders took 11 sacks on play action plays, Dillon Gabriel just 3. So that's just an analytical breakdown of these two kind of beyond, the metrics that we see all the time. But the production metrics, based on those alone, you just look at that. The Browns drafted 2 of the best quarterbacks in this class, and they got them in the 3rd and the 5th. That's insane. So two of the best quarterbacks in terms of college production and experience. Shedeur Sanders played 4 years in college, and Dillon Gabriel played 6, really 5 full seasons. He missed the majority of 1 season with a broken collarbone. High efficiency players, both of these guys, like I mentioned at the top. Low turnovers. Dillon Gabriel's highest interception total in his entire career was 7. 7 picks in a season. That's it. And that was his freshman year at UCF. He never threw more than 6 in a single season after that. Shedeur Sanders actually had the highest total of his career here in 2024 with 10 interceptions, but he only threw 3 the year before that in 2023. So, and that was the only year he ever had double-digit interceptions. Shedeur led the nation with 73.4% completion rate. Dillon Gabriel was right behind him with 72.3%. So, we've got the top 2 most accurate passers in college football on our team now. Both players had the same exact adjusted completion percentage at 82%, which that led the nation for both of those guys. So if you haven't been on an episode where I've talked about adjusted completion rate before, I'll just real quick, that accounts for throwaways, that accounts for interceptions that maybe weren't the quarterback's fault, that accounts for spiked balls, things of those nature that are like a spike ball or a throwaway. Those are like a positive play for the quarterback because it doesn't lead to a negative play, but they go against your completion percentage. So adjusted completion percent rules those things out and just focuses on the catchable targets and the throws and things like that. So both of them were at 82%, highest in the nation. Both of these guys were top 6 in total yards. Shedeur had 4,133. Dillon Gabriel had 3,854. Both of these quarterbacks were top 6 in touchdowns. Shedeur Sanders had 37. Dillon Gabriel had 30. And they both had the lowest turnover-worthy play rates in the nation. Shedeur was down at an even 1, and Gabriel was at 1.3. So these are quarterbacks that can score, and they don't turn the ball over. They're perfect fits for Kevin Stefanski's offense, especially since we have led the league in freaking turnovers for 2 years in a row. I'm sick of that. These guys might be able to help in that department. So there are other things outside of the metrics and stuff that we need to consider. And I broke it down like this: competition level, the surrounding team, the teammates that are around you, and their physical size. And we talked about that at the top. We're going to do it again here. So let's actually start with the physical size conversation. And like I said, people are just dismissing Dillon Gabriel immediately because of his size. But at 5'11", 205, he's bigger than Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray. When they were coming in the NFL, they were all smaller than him. And when you look at Shedeur Sanders, yes, he is listed at 6'2", 215. But he's not a big guy, okay? He's got to be, if he's 215, he is 215 soaking wet. He is very thin. Just look at those, go online, social media, whatever. Look at the pictures of him when the Browns took him. He's got the Browns draft hat on. He's got the black cutoff shirt on. He's super skinny. He's got very skinny arms, thin shoulders. He's a smaller built guy. And that's one thing Jared Mueller from Dogs by Nature talked about. He reported that from the combine, just how much smaller Shedeur was than he was expecting. Quote, "I was surprised by Shedeur's lack of overall size, not just height, standing near him." So both of these guys, neither of these guys are big. Shedeur, Dillon, they're not the prototypical quarterback size. But then again, the NFL isn't really demanding prototypical quarterback size. Jalen Hurts just won the Super Bowl with the Eagles, and he's 6'1". He's like 220. He's a thicker built quarterback, but he's not very tall. A lot of these guys aren't tall. Patrick Mahomes is 6'2". Okay, so the 6'4", 6'5" guys, I mean, maybe Justin Herbert, what's Joe Burrow, 6'3", 6'4"? A lot of the quarterbacks playing right now are in that 6'1", 6'2", maybe 6'3" range. But, you do have a handful of guys who are 6 foot or even a little shorter. So it's not uncommon. Okay, so my notes here. As for Dillon Gabriel, I said, now looking at his metrics that we just talked about on here, watching his tape, if this kid was 2 inches taller, that's it, 2 inches, he probably would have been listed as a late first or early mid-second round talent at worst. Probably would have been talked about among the top prospects in this class. Tyler Shuck, who? No, we would be talking about Dillon Gabriel. Even if he was just 6'1", like Jalen Hurts, instead of 5'11", that would have made a huge difference in his scouting reports, at least in my opinion. Go watch the tape and tell me that he is not a quarterback that if he was 6'3" and 220, he might have been the number 1 overall pick. I'm not kidding. That's how good he plays the quarterback position. Go watch it. And tell me if you guys think I'm wrong about that, but that's honestly my takeaway. And let's not pretend like Dillon Gabriel played with like teeny tiny small players around him in college, and the transition to the NFL is going to be, oh man, these guys are so much bigger. He played at freaking Oklahoma and Oregon, okay? And that's going to move us here into this surrounding teammate discussion for these guys. Dillon Gabriel said himself when he was asked about his height and that kind of stuff, he said, look, I've played with 6'8" tackles. I've played with 6'4" guards in college. That's what you're dealing with in the NFL. Now, 6'8" is obviously on the very tall end for these tackles. A lot of these guys are going to be like 6'4", 6'5", on the offensive line. Your guards are going to be 6'3", maybe 6'4", and that kind of thing. But he's played with these guys in college because, like I said, Oregon, Oklahoma, these are major programs in major conferences that both recruit future NFL caliber linemen. He never had a problem seeing or operating behind those offensive lines. He also went up against the best defensive linemen, many of which are NFL caliber players or in the NFL now. In the Big Ten Championship, great example, Dillon Gabriel. On his offensive line in 2024, he's got Josh Connerly Jr. and a Johnny Cornelius. Both were 6'5" tackles on either side of that line, and they were both also drafted this year, so they are NFL linemen. Connerly in the first round. And in that game, who was he going up against in the pass rush on the other side? Abdul Carter, who was the number 3 overall pick. So he has gone against top NFL talent. He has played alongside NFL caliber, NFL size players, and he can do it. It's not like he played, not to knock on Josh Allen or anything, but it's not like he played at North Dakota State against, I don't even know who they play against. But it is a completely different ball game when you're playing in the Big Ten and you're come on, Oregon was the number 1 team in the nation all year. It's not like they were just some, maybe they snuck into the back end of the ranked school, discussion. No, they were number 1 and they played top talent. So he has done it for a long time against the top players. He's also had much better surrounding talent than what Shedeur had. Yes, talked about this. Shedeur Sanders had Travis Hunter, but that doesn't really make up for the much lower talent on the offensive line. And the big one for me is the complete lack of a running game. I had to go look it up and I wanted to see what the numbers were. And yep, it confirms there was no running game in Colorado. Oregon, 2,373 rushing yards. And that was with, Jordan James mostly, along with a little bit from Noah Whittington. But what about Colorado? Colorado had a hilariously low 1,211 yards. The official stat line, if you go look, shows them with just 847 official rushing yards on the season because Shedeur lost 364 yards from all of his sacks. And in college football, which I think is totally stupid, I wish they would change this because it does not help properly evaluate players coming from the NFL or from college into the NFL. But when you take a sack as a quarterback in college football, it counts as negative rushing yards for you and for the team. Now, obviously in the NFL, you take a sack, it doesn't count as anything negative against you, but it does count as negative passing yards for your team. So I wish they would align those statistical categories a little better so we could evaluate, but it is good to go and see what the difference actually is because Oregon shows just 162 yards lost from the 19 sacks that Dillon Gabriel had in 2024. Oregon had 4.4 rush yards per attempt, Colorado 2.5. Oregon had 30 rushing touchdowns. Colorado, 15. But, even knowing these stats, we can't just apples to apples compare Shedeur and Gabriel. Oregon and Colorado, I'm sorry. Sorry, Prime. Sorry, Dion. These are not comparable programs. No one can dispute that. Oregon was number 1, like I said, in the nation most of the season, undefeated until the playoff with strong games against number 2, Ohio State, number 20, Illinois, number 3, Penn State, went through the gauntlet of the Big Ten and all this stuff. Colorado played just 2 ranked teams on the season, number 18, Kansas State, number 17, BYU in the Alamo Bowl, and they lost both those games, whereas Oregon won all of their ranked opponent games except for the college football playoff where they lost to Ohio State the second time around. And, talking about the comparable, the teammates around you, the defense at Oregon, obviously so much better than Colorado's. I know we're talking mostly offense stuff here today, but the defense still better. And those 2 ranked games, Shedeur kind of split those. He played pretty well against Kansas State. Again, they lost, but he played really bad against BYU in that Alamo Bowl. Dillon Gabriel, on the other hand, had very strong performances against every ranked opponent he faced. The first time against Ohio State, he had 341 yards and 2 touchdowns. No turnovers. Against Illinois, he was 291 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. And against Penn State in the Big Ten Championship, he was 283 yards with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He even put together a strong stat line against Ohio State in that playoff game that they lost, although, to be fair, that game was over at halftime. Most of these stats came in the second half, but he still compiled 299, so almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks against Ohio State the second time. So even though the team got completely spanked in that game, Dillon Gabriel still held his own and put together a decent performance. So, like I said earlier, PFF had Dillon Gabriel's sacks at 19. ESPN is showing 21. Interesting note, why I'm adding this in here, 8 of those 21 sacks that they recorded were in that one single playoff game against Ohio State. Ohio State was bringing it in that playoff game. They brought it against everybody on their championship run. And yes, I am a Buckeye homer, so it does make me pretty happy. But look at that. So the dude, based on ESPN, they're saying he had 21 sacks. 8 of them were in one game. So that just leaves 13 sacks left to go the rest of the season. He never took more than 4 sacks in any contest before that playoff game, and he had 7 games during the season where he took 0 sacks. That's phenomenal. So he doesn't take a lot of sacks, and he doesn't commit a lot of turnovers. I don't really care about your arm strength, your size. If that's how you play the quarterback position, not taking sacks and not turning the ball over, there's a good chance you're going to have some success in the NFL. I'm not saying you're going to be a high-level starter, but at the very least, you can be a very adequate backup at the very minimum. Shedeur, on the other hand, took a sack in every single game. He had 3 games where he had 6 or more sacks. That's not good. And in ESPN's QBR scoring system, Dillon Gabriel outpaced Shedeur Sanders with an 86.4 QBR. Shedeur had a 75.5. This episode is sponsored by Omaha Steaks. Do you guys love smash burgers? The crispy caramelized sear and the bold beefy flavor of Omaha Steaks smash burgers are to die for. I got the new smash burgers from Omaha Steaks, and holy crap, guys, these things are delicious. They're thinner patties, so I grill up 2 of them, slap on 2 pieces of cheese, and make myself the best double stack burger ever. Forget the mess of making smash burgers yourself. Get 16 free burgers in the Built for the Grill pack at omahasteaks.com/smash. They're pre-smashed, so you can enjoy smash burgers at home. No griddle or cast iron pan required, and they won't fall apart on the grill when you flip them. These burgers are made from 100% premium aged Omaha Steaks beef for exceptional quality and flavor. Omaha Steaks smash burgers go from freezer to bun in just 5 minutes. So get ready to smash expectations with new Omaha Steaks smash burgers. Visit omahasteaks.com/smash and order the Built for the Grill pack with 16 free smash burgers. That is 16 free Omaha Steaks smash burgers at omahasteaks.com/smash. See site for details. So, we look at all these metrics. We looked at the size comparisons. We looked at the competition level, the team around these guys. The questions, and this is going to play more towards Shedeur because he was the talk of the town for pretty much all of draft season and definitely the draft weekend, but the questions are legitimate questions about him. Andrew Brandt was on the Ross Tucker podcast talking about how there was a massive disconnect between how the media viewed Shedeur and how the NFL viewed him. He said his sources within the NFL messaged him after the draft, said, yeah, 5th round for Shedeur Sanders, that's about right. Most teams had him as a 4th or 5th round guy on their boards. And whether, the media will come out here, Mel Kiper tell you he was the best quarterback in the class, and the media will tell you he was a top 2, top 3 prospect, should have been in the 1st round, all that stuff. The NFL unanimously told you he's a 5th round guy. And it makes total sense. That what he's saying about the NFL having him as a 4th or 5th round guy, like that makes sense because every single quarterback needy team passed on Shedeur Sanders. And not only did they pass on him, but they opted to select other quarterbacks instead of him. The Tennessee Titans went with Cam Ward. The New York Giants went with Jackson Dart. The New Orleans Saints went with Tyler Shuck. The Seattle Seahawks went with Jalen Milroe. And even Shedeur's own team, the Browns, went with Dillon Gabriel over him. Now, that is not to say that Shedeur cannot be the guy for Cleveland. I like what he's already doing here. I like what he's doing out in the community. He's making a positive name for himself, and that's wonderful. And I have seen some of the people on social media say, well, I can't even, where's Dillon Gabriel? He's not here. First of all, rookies don't report until May 8th, I believe, for rookie minicamp. So we've got about a week yet to go. And he lives in Hawaii, guys, okay? Lee Shelko, I know you're listening to this, man. Drop it in the comments wherever you're listening. He's the president of the Honolulu, Hawaii Browns backers out there. I went out there whenever I was on my, whenever we eloped and got married, out of there for my honeymoon. We stopped by, had a beer with Lee, and it was awesome out there. Hawaii is not just a quick jump on a plane and get to where you're going. It is a serious trip. So Dillon Gabriel is not coming over here to do a couple things, to do a press conference in the Browns building and then flying clear back to Hawaii. It's a journey. It really is. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there for everybody. But so like I said, it's not to say that he can't be the guy for Cleveland, but we just have to remember that the Browns chose Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders, And that means something. It means that Shedeur is going to have to prove to his own team that their rankings were wrong. I know Andrew Barry on the phone call said, hey, we're going to take you off the board here. It's time to prove all these teams that they were wrong for passing on you. He didn't say this, but it's in the same breath. It's like, hey, man, you got to prove us that we were wrong for passing on you too, because we did. The Browns were 100% fine with another team selecting him. That's just the truth of the matter. Otherwise, they would have made sure that they got him. Instead, they made sure that they got Dillon Gabriel. So it's going to be a fantastic summer of content at the very least. It's going to be a great summer, great spring and summer of quarterback competition. Watching how this plays out on the field is going to be so phenomenal, because despite what the media wants to say about Shedeur, and I see a lot of Browns fans, Blake talked about this last week on the show, they liken him to the Johnny Manziel and all that stuff. And I think that there's a cohort of Browns fans that will say that. What they really mean is when they say it's going to be like Johnny Manziel, they're talking about the negative press coverage, the circus, the media circus, and all that kind of stuff. But the two couldn't be more different guys. I mean, Johnny, like Blake said, was, on drugs during the process, and everybody knew it. And then the Browns took him in the first round anyway. Shedeur Sanders, by all accounts, just simply pretty much bombed his interviews in the pre-draft process, whether on purpose or not. There's speculation. I don't care. The interviews did not go well, clearly. And, based on the tape and the evaluation of him, the teams just did not have that high of a grade on him. It is what it is. Either way, the Browns get him in the 5th round, and he has got to be like the most popular 5th round pick in NFL history. I just can't even think of another one that as soon as he's picked in the 5th round, boom, he becomes the most popular guy in the draft. It's insane. But now he's with us. He's with Cleveland, and we're going to be rooting him on. We're going to be rooting on both of these guys, watching them progress on the field, competing and battling it out. And I may be alone in this. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, but I think that there's a pretty good chance that one of these two guys could emerge during camp and actually claim the week 1 starter spot. We talked on the show about Joe Flacco might be the odd man out here because he's the old man in the room. And sorry, but we have got to figure out what we've got in these 3 young guys before we go into 2026 with 2 first-round picks. If we have to allocate one or both of those to go get a quarterback, we better make damn sure that neither one of these rookies or Kenny Pickett is the guy or could be the guy. Blake is much higher on Kenny Pickett than I am. I feel like I've seen Kenny Pickett, and I feel like there's not a whole lot of optimism there. But hey, you know what? In a new system with Kevin Stefanski, maybe Kenny Pickett can show something. I have much higher hopes for these 2 rookies, and it does stink. But I do think that Joe Flacco could be the odd man out. The other thing to keep in mind, last year in 2024, the Browns did roll into the season with 4 quarterbacks on the roster. They kept Deshaun, Jameis, DTR, and Huntley on the initial 53-man. So there's no saying that any of these 4 quarterbacks has to go completely, because they could opt to keep 4. But you could see some trade windows open up over the summer. Quarterbacks get hurt. Last year you had, J.J. McCarthy tears, his MCL or something, whatever, in his knee, and then he ends up out for the year. They already had Sam Darnold on the roster, so they were okay. But something like that happens to another team, and they don't have that guy sitting there. I mean, maybe Kenny Pickett becomes an option. Maybe Joe Flacco becomes an option. But the Browns, at the very least, have given themselves options. So let me know what you guys think about this breakdown between these two. We're going to be doing more and more of this as the May and June roll on. We're going to be talking a lot about Shedeur Sanders, a lot about Dillon Gabriel, because the Browns need a quarterback. The Browns took 2 quarterbacks, and we got to hope and pray that one of these guys can become the guy. And, me personally, I don't care which. I don't have a preference. I'm not polling for Shedeur. I'm not polling for Gabriel. I am polling for the Browns. I am polling for the Browns to find their guy. And I don't care which one it is, just as long as it's one of them. That would be phenomenal. Because either way you look at it, you get a late 3rd round pick, becomes your franchise quarterback, or you get a 5th round pick that becomes your franchise quarterback. That sets you up to be able to do so many things with the cap and with those 1st round picks and everything next year. So I'm just hoping that this quarterback competition really breeds the best in both of these guys and brings out a true franchise guy. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, your own breakdowns, what you guys have seen on tape and all that kind of stuff. And who do you think will come out of this competition on top over training camp and the preseason? Again, appreciate you guys tuning in. Love doing these episodes for you. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Get everything this week kicked off to a good start. Head over to jointhedogs.com if you want to become an official Dog Pack member. Join our Dog Pack community. Jump into the private Discord. First of all, it's just a great way to help support the show financially. It helps us keep things running, buying new equipment, keeping the show going, all the graphics, all that kind of stuff. Like it really does help the show. And then if you want to take it even further, you can get into the private Discord. You can connect all that up, dive in to the Browns fan community. We are in there talking 24/7. It's a ton of fun. So that's jointhedogs.com. Fantasy football signups are going to be opening up soon. We are already here in May, and we do our drafts in August. So we will start those signups probably in June, I would say, probably at the start of June, getting the leagues all lined up and ready to go, because it does take a while to really coordinate everything and get everybody lined up and ready to roll. So get in there now if you're interested in fantasy football especially, but if you just want to help support the show or join the Discord, it is jointhedogs.com. Again, appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything. We will see you later this week when we do our live group episode. And until then, let's go Browns.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. Dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
Going up.
Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up.
Going up.
But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button.
Going down.
We've lowered prices. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. And you get a free 5G phone when you bring your number. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
At Ritual, we're celebrating all moms this Mother's Day, current and aspiring. So whether you're looking for fertility support, natal choline, or our best-selling clinically backed prenatal, we've got you covered. Find your Ritual. Go to ritual.com/podcast, and for a limited time, get 40% off your first month. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Based on net sales from industry data, including Nielsen IQ, Stackline, and Numerator as of Q4 2024 and top 5 products.